Hello and welcome to another one of Dynamic CCTV's technical videos. My name's Nathan Garner. I'm the technical pre-sales and project manager here at Dynamic CCTV, and today I'm just going to be having a quick run through going through the new online tools that are available from Hikvision. So this is a website that you would go to, and this gives you the ability to use the tools that you can see in front of you there on screen. I'm just going to go into each one of these, just give you a kind of overview of what you can do, the different tools that are available. In the description for the video there will be a link to the actual Hikvision online tools. Some of these you do have to create an online account with Hikvision in order to be able to use them, and some of the more basic ones you don't need to create an account. So first we're just going to take a look at the lens selection tool. So this can allow you to do basic kind of maps and layouts of the different types of cameras, and be able to actually show the kind of sight plan you wish to achieve with the system. So this can be looking at how far a camera can see, whether or not it will be a recognition zone when the person's detected, whether or not the camera will be blurred. You can actually do this using the lens selection tool. So you can see here I'm currently on the mountain view screen of the lens selection tool, and what I can do is I can click on the blue text there with the camera model, and I can then search for the model number that I want. And so I can search either by the resolution that I want, or I can actually type in keywords which would be the model numbers of the cameras. So if I search 2345s, you can see there we've got the turret cameras. So I can select the top one, which is 2.8mm lens, double click on that, and it's actually changed the actual angles of the actual camera itself. And what we can actually do is we can change the detection height. So if we want to see an object height at 3.9 meters, we can set that. Along the bottom is the distance that we want to be able to see that target. So if we go for example 40 meters, you can see there the camera would actually still be able to detect that that's a person or human or anything like that. So it's still within the detection range of the actual camera, and it hasn't gone into the blurred range. But if I take this out further, you can then see beyond the 45ish meters distance, you're then in the blurred kind of image range of the camera itself. So I can bring that back in, and you can see the scale automatically adjusts for that. What we can also do is we can import our own maps into the actual software. So if we click on the plus icon there and select 2D view and then click on OK, we can then go to add an image. Now if I bring up dynamic building, just entering that into the middle, and I'm just going to put camera on screen at first, and then what I'm then going to do is I'm actually going to scale the image itself. So I can click on set the scale at the top, and then I can click and drag. And I know the distance out the front of our buildings is approximately 74 meters. Click on OK, and that actually scales the actual image itself. And now you can see I can drag the camera and I can place it where I want to, and I can use my scroll wheel to scroll into the image. I can adjust which way the camera is looking at, so you can see in that blue zone is what the camera will be able to see within our car park out the front of our buildings. And then zoom back out again, and I can click on the camera icon to add in another camera. And then if I want to put that on our other buildings over the road, then click that there. I can then change the actual positioning of the camera itself. We can change the object height in here, so I can set that to 2 meters, and it will automatically adjust the actual cameras themselves. For the actual cameras, you can see we can switch between scale map and pixel map, depending on what's needed for the site. So this allows you to basically put a design together of the cameras that you wish to use on a site, which is really easy to do, and it gives you an overview of what kind of area of coverage that you can actually have with the cameras, so it makes it really useful when you're initially putting together a solution for a client. And what you can then do is you can click on export at the top there, and this will then export a PDF which will include the solution that you have put together as well as the cameras that you have selected for the actual software. And you can then email this PDF over to us, and we can then build a quote for the solution that you've put together for the system. Now if I go back to our home page, we can then go into the thermal design tool. Now this is similar to the lens selection, however this is for specific thermal designs, such as your temperature measurement modes with the thermal cameras, and as well as your fire detection and your line crossing and intrusion detection for the VCA rules with the thermal cameras. So if I click on the thermal design tool, and I can select to import picture again as my map, so I'm going to select the dynamic building, and again we need to set the scale as well for this one. So if I click on edit scale, then click, and then click again, and then we can enter in the distance, which is approximately 74 meters, and that will then scale the actual map itself. To select our cameras, again we click on, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a 1217, so I'm just typing that keyword in at the top there. You can see we've got our different lens sizes, and now I'm going to go for the 3mm lens, so I'm just going to double click on that. And this is a bispectrum camera, and you can see there it's pulled in the details. I can give it a name, so I'm going to call this car park, and then we've got the different parameters that we can use. So by default it's set to the VCA rules, but you can also use this in temperature measurement and also fire detection. Click on add there, it will actually add in the thermal camera itself, so I can put that on the end of our training academy, adjust the way it's looking so it can actually cover the front entrance to our training academy, so we could then have a line crossing detection or an intrusion zone drawn out the reception area of our training academy and have that as a triggering event. And we can also go in and add in multiples of these. So if I put this camera here, and turn it around that way, that would then be able to cover the main entrance to our main dynamic building. I can also go in and add an additional camera and have this then cover the main entrance into the car park itself for any vehicles that are coming in, and have a line crossing event set up across the actual camera image of the gates, and any vehicles that will go through can then trigger an event which can then alert into our system. Once you've got your design put together, you can then export it or you can save it. So if you click on export here, and if we call this dynamic building, you can then export it as a PDF, or you can export it as a Word document. We're just going to export it as a PDF, and then you can enter in the project designer. You can then also upload your own company logo. So if I upload ours, and then click on OK, it will then export the PDF file, which you can then see it's actually put together our design for the system with an overview and it will then list the cameras, the mounting heights that have been entered in the design, the angle for the cameras, so then installers and engineers can use these as guidelines to actually install the cameras as well. And you can email these designs over to us here at Dynamic, and we can then put together any quotes or have a look at any designs that you've put together and advise if there's any tweaks or anything that need to be done with the actual system. So if I close that, and then if I go back to the home page again, we've then got the intercom designer. So I know the intercom range is quite popular and a lot of people are using the systems, but they want an easy way to be able to put together a solution for their customers. So the intercom system designer, should I say, is an easier way of being able to put together your solutions and help to be able to put together a quote. So there's different scenes that you can select. So for this one I'm just going to select an apartment building, and I'm going to select the system type as an IP solution, and it's going to be the door station modular, so the modular intercoms, and then click on next. What we've then got on the left hand side is the actual door station representation. So each unit starts with a camera module as the base, and then you can add on the different modules that you need. For example, name tag module, keypad module, display information that's auto backlit. Depending on what you're needing for the site, you can actually add these in. So for this one I'm going to add in a modular door station keypad, and I'm also going to add in a MyFair card reader for the actual system. So you can see this is a 3-unit system, and then what I also need to do is select the mounting type that I want to use for the system. So click on the mounting type tab, and I can select to use the 3-way unit. So if I click on for one of those, I can then also add in the protective shield if I wanted to as well. I'm just going to click next on this one. We then move on to the indoor stations. So these are the different indoor stations that you can select for the system, and you can also filter it to show Wi-Fi only models. So I'm going to use the DS-KH8350-WTE1, and for this apartment block there's going to be, for example, 25 apartments. So there's going to be 25 indoor stations that are going to be on the actual system itself. We can then click on next, and then we can add in any of the accessories that we want. So for example, the PoE switches, we can add in a couple of those and a couple of the smaller switches depending on the system. We can also add in the mag locks or the powered door locks, and we can also add in our cards to use with our card reader module that we added onto the unit. So I'm going to put in 50 of the IC S50 cards, and I'm then going to click on next, and you can see this is just giving us a breakdown of what we've put into our design. I can then click on export list, and I'm going to export this as a PDF. You can see it's exported the PDF and downloaded to my desktop. So if I click on that to open it, it's then giving us a breakdown of the different models of the units that we've put together, as well as the number for each of the units, and it then gives you a basic layout of the actual intercom system there as well. This can then be emailed over to our sales department here at Dynamic, and they can put a quote together or an order based on the system that you've put together through the intercom designer. So it makes it a lot easier to be able to quote and put together solutions for your clients, and then also be able to use that to be able to put together an order or quote with us here at Dynamic. So if we can just close those, leave there. We're then back onto the main tools page. We've then got the storage and network calculator. So this can be used for calculating storage that you'd need, so your hard drive sizes depending on the cameras, that you're using on the system with the frame rates and bit rates, as well as being able to put in how long you want to record for, and also to work out the amount of bandwidth that you'll be using across the network. There's also the option for allocation mode, which is for when you're using additional devices for SAN units or anything like that you can also use through this. But we're just going to use the calculation mode today, so we're going to select that and then click on OK. This will then take us into the main page for the storage and network calculator. So what we can do is we can go to click on Add here, and say for example we wanted to know how much storage we'd need for 10 4-megapixel cameras for a month's worth of recording. So for our channel number, that'll be the number of cameras that we're having on the actual of the 8-megapixel resolution. So I've set the channel number to 10, and I'm going to be using 𝐂𝐸265 encoding, and then the resolution, I'm going to set that to 8-megapixel. We then have an option to set the frame rates of the camera, and so for these I'm just going to set them at 15 frames a second, and you can see it automatically drops down the bit rate. So this is just a generalized recommended bit rate for 8-megapixel cameras run at 15 frames a second. You can actually manually go in and adjust that if you like running at higher bit rates. If there's a lot of movement in the scene, you do generally need a higher bit rate to be able to handle that. Once you've done that, you can then go in and put in the number of terabytes that you want, or if you actually want to calculate the amount of storage you'll actually need depending on the number of days that you want, you can click on calculate disk space, and we want to record for 31 days, so we're taking 31 there. And then if you're only recording on a night, you can reduce the hours that you need to record per day, but as this will be continuous recording every day, you can see that it would record 13.8 terabytes of storage to record these 10 cameras at 4K resolution. We'd round that up usually when we're putting together these types of systems, so we'd recommend at least 14 terabytes of storage. What you can then also do is go to the calculate bandwidth tab, and you can see there for the required bandwidth that's needed to run these 10 cameras across the network would be approximately 40 megabits per second. Now there's also the substream to take into account as well. With this calculation, this only covers the mainstream bandwidth that's needed for the cameras, which is your recording side of things. The substream is generally used for live view and substream, so you generally add on an extra 0.5 megabits per second per camera to account for the substream as well. You can also add in multiple cameras, so if you're having a record with multiple cameras on that are running at different resolutions, I can go in and add another 10 cameras and set these to 2 megapixel, which is 1080p, and have them running at full frame. And you can see it automatically adjusted the amount of bandwidth needed, and it's also increased the amount of disk space that we would actually need for the system as well for the 31 days worth of recording. So that's just a quick look at the storage and network calculator. So if I close that now, we can then look at take a quick look at the turnstile selection tool and also the LED selection tool. So if I open the turnstile tool, so this is used for the barriers that Hikvision do, or the turnstile should I say. So at the top we can click on select our different turnstile models. I'm just going to click that one there, and the number of lanes that we are wanting as well can also be set. First, going to set our area width to 2 meters. Click on preview, and you can see there the actual width that we've set for the actual area and the actual turnstile itself. And you can then generate a solution based off this. Export. Again, it's generated the PDF with the design and also the model numbers that you need for the system as well. Close that, and we can then take a quick look at the LED selection tool. So this is perfect for putting together a video wall solution for your clients. So you can put in the region, which will be UK for ourselves. We can then put in the details of the environment. So this will be the wall height in millimeters and also the wall width. So if we set this to a wall height of 4000 and then set the width as 6000, for example. Obviously this would be a very wide wall and a very tall wall, but depending on the system for the actual unit. And what we can do is we can actually set the display height. So I can set that to 1000, and then we can then also select the model of the screens that we wish to use for the system, depending on what we are needing. I'm just going to select that one. And then for our video wall, we can select how many rows of monitors that we are wanting, and also how many columns, depending on what we're needing to achieve with the solution. If you want a full wall covered in monitors, you can actually just click on the fit to wall, and it will give you a full spread of monitors across the full wall and give you the actual system there with the height that you've set, as well as a gap at the top as well for the system. You can then click to display a default image across the video wall as an example. We can then click on export in the top right and then click on OK. Now this will take a couple of minutes just to export the report, which will then include the cabling design, the power design, and a few other bits as well for the actual monitors. So you can see there it's included the number of displays that we need, the wall brackets, the controllers, everything that we need for the actual system. A simple diagram of the actual design, and then if we scroll through, it'll give us the spec, the cabinets that we'd need, the power load, network loading, the overall topology. Gives you everything that we'd need to be able to put together the actual solution in nice PDF that can be emailed over to us or emailed over to your customer to show the design, to be able to get quotes and or to submit as a proposal to meet a spec requirement for an actual design of that. Close those. So that's just a quick look at the Hikvision tool software that's now available as an online tools. Instead of needing to download the actual software, you can simply go to the URL and be able to do that within any web browser. And you don't need to actually download the software onto your PC. So it makes it a lot easier for installers to be able to put together systems, to put together designs, and also meet the requirements from their clients. If you have any questions, please feel free to get in contact with us as always, and please make sure you like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel to see more videos upcoming further down the line. Thank you, bye.